تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، جہاں جہاں بھی گیا دل بچھانے لگے، جہاں جہاں بھی گیا دل بچھانے لگے، یہ ہے تیرا میرا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں کی دعا جنت کی بھاشا، ماں کی دعا جنت کی، ماں کی دعا جنت کی، ماں کی دعا جنت کی، یہ کامیابیاں شہرت قدم قدم پہ ملی، یہ کامیابیاں شہرت قدم قدم پہ ملی، نصیب ایسا ملا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، طواف میں نے کیا تھی سعی مروا بھی، طواف میں نے کیا تھی سعی مروا بھی، جو میں نے میرا کیا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، مجھے گرانے پہ حاسد تلے ہوئے تھے مگر، مجھے گرانے پہ حاسد تلے ہوئے تھے مگر، میں دشمنوں سے بچا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، پسند ہے اس میں اجاگر کا کچھ جمال نہیں، پسند ہے اس میں اجاگر کا کچھ جمال نہیں، عروج اس کو ملا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے تیری دعاؤں سے ماں تیری دعاؤں سے ماں تیری دعاؤں سے ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا ماں کی دعا جنت کی ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا کی دعا جنت کی ہوا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of News in Focus live on Radio Ansaar, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marsberg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba bikum. My name is Yunus Sacoor, and I will be in your company for the next 2 hours, just after 8 now to 10 p.m., maybe beyond 10 p.m., depending on how our guests chat this evening. I'll be interviewing our guest shortly. Today, the date is the 4th of Rabiul Awal 1447 AH, equivalent to the 27th of August 2025. It is indeed a very Mubarak month in the Islamic calendar, the month of the birth of our beloved Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, one of the greatest and noble human beings ever to set foot on this world. He came as a mercy and a blessing to mankind. He taught mankind how to live a blessed life for success in this world and in the hereafter. I have many guests on the show this evening, and we're going to discuss some very topical subjects this evening. But I thought it will be appropriate before I commence today's program that I will play a favorite nasheed that the listeners have requested on the importance of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam and how people turn to Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam for solace salvation in difficult times. So catch a listen to this nasheed, and inshallah after the nasheed we'll commence this evening's program.
Ya Rasool Allah, Ya Habib Allah, Aka, 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 Aka. پھر کے گلی گلی تباہ ہو کر سب کی کھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں رخصت قافلہ کشان غش سے ہمیں اٹھائے کیوں رخصت قافلہ کشان غش سے ہمیں اٹھائے کیوں سوتے ہیں ان کے سائے میں سوتے ہیں ان کے سائے میں کوئی ہمیں جگائے کیوں پھر کے دکھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں یاد حضور کی قسم غفلت عیش ہے ستم یاد हुजूर की कसम गफलत ऐश है सितम खूब है कैद गम में हम खूब है कैद गम में हम कोई हमें छुड़ाए क्यों वो जो न थे तो कुछ न था वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो वो जो न थे तो कुछ न था वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो जान है वो जहान की जान है वो जहान की जान है तो जहान गए की खाए क्यों दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों हाँ जान है इश्क मुस्तफा रोज फजू करे खुदा जान है इश्क मुस्तफा रोज फजू करे खुदा जिसको दर्द का मजा जिसको दर्द का मजा सांसे दवा उठाए क्यों फिर के दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों है तो रज़ा निरा सितम जुर्म पे गए लजाए हम है तो रज़ा निरा सितम जुर्म पे गए लजाए हम कोई बचाए सौ से गम कोई बचाए सौ से गम साजे तरब बचाए क्यों
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus Live on Radio Ansaar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marisburg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Certainly a beautiful nasheed rendered by Ghulam Mustafa Qadri of Pakistan. On tonight's show, we're discussing the engagement in terms of the national dialogue, which has been introduced by President Ramaphosa, which exposes the disconnect between the leadership of the government and living realities of ordinary South Africans. We'll do an analysis and we'll do an impact of this national dialogue. Many people are questioning the representation on the national dialogue, as well as why so late. I mean, consultation ought to have taken place, many, many years ago, because there's been problems, with service delivery in the country for many a decade. So the question is, why now? Is it before elections, etc.? So we'll do an analysis. We're going to chat about the pitfalls of a coalition governance. Now, we know that the government of national unity has been formed after the last elections to ensure that, there's control of the country. We've analyzed in many of our programs whether it's working or not. So there are some pitfalls that we need to discuss. And going forward, will it really work? We're also going to chat about the preparation for the 2026 local government elections, which the IEC has indicated may take place anytime between November 2026 and January 2027. So it's just over a year away. And are the relevant ratepayer associations, civic organizations, ward committees in the different wards preparing for local government elections to make a change in local government? Because we know there's a huge problem with service delivery in local government, and how do we prepare and deal with the challenges? Then we're looking at some service deliverables and problematic issues in the various wards where ratepayers are resident. Many ratepayers in the different wards have been raising issues about the increase in vagrancy, and the term vagrancy means that homeless people are all over the city. They're sleeping overnight in the different wards. They're creating havoc overnight. Many of them are begging in street corners. They're involved in smash and grabs. So the problem, continues, and ratepayers are really getting hurtful or tired about what's happening. And they believe that both SAPS and Metropolis are not very effective in dealing with these vagrants, because these are forerunners for drug addiction, drug dens being formed in the different wards, and a lot of youth and other people are being affected, and they're being drawn into these drug dens. So we're going to chat briefly about that, and then we're going to also chat about what type of new parties are going to come into the bloc come 2026 elections. We know that many parties have registered for local government elections, and the numbers are growing, as has been the case in the national elections, which took place sometime last year. And so there's been almost a whopping 35 new political parties registered since the 2024 elections, bringing the total tally to 471 parties. So where to from here? So we will discuss that issue going into the municipal elections. But I'd like to first of all introduce my guests for this evening's show. We have Councillor Mohammed Ismail. He's a councillor in the Tikweni municipality. He's also the Secretary General of Active Citizens Coalition. Councillor Ismail, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Ansaar.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah for having me here again. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We have SHAHISTAH GAFFOOR. She's a community activist in Ward 31 and surrounds, and I know that whenever there's a problem, most of the residents, WhatsApp or communicate with SHAHISTAH for dealing with issues. Many times there's water outages, electricity outages, and the community's buzz here WhatsApp number, and she responds immediately. SHAHISTAH, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shukran for the invite.
It's a pleasure. We also have live in the studio NOMSA KAMASHOBANE, SIBISI. NOMSA is also a civic activist. She's representing a consultative forum. Also been, quite active community member and an activist with many political parties over the years gone by. But currently she's working with Afrika, MAYIBUYE. She's the KZN convener of this consultative forum. Good evening, NOMSA, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Ansaar.
Good evening, Yunus. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, it's a pleasure. We also have Brother ABDOOL VALODIA. ABDOOL is quite a well-known person. He's the chairperson of the OVERPORT RATEPAYERS Association. In his chat group, which constitute more than 1,000 members, he's also the chairperson of the United for Palestine. And ABDOOL always involved in civic affairs, but he tells me he hardly got time to do his work. ABDOOL, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Yunus, and thank you for having us on your show.
No, it's a pleasure, because what we're going to discuss this evening is practical issues facing the communities out there. And, obviously, from time to time, new issues crop up in the various wards. And we want to highlight those issues, but ultimately we want to get towards what do we do when local government elections come up. It mustn't just be business as usual, because we don't want a situation where councillors rock up a couple of months before elections. They represent political parties. They go into debates and indicate why they're the best party. They make promises, and after the elections, you don't find them around. So I think what the ratepayer associations are now saying is that we want to make changes, not only on the political side, but we want to make changes in putting leaders that will go into council and make sure that the officials catch a wake-up call, and whatever they're appointed to do, they must deliver and make a difference in people's lives. So later on in the program, we're going to ask our guests, how do they plan to achieve that objective? Because most of our listeners listening in this program, whether you're located in eThekwini, in Msunduzi, in Pietermaritzburg, in Kwaduguza, in Stainga, in Amdoni, in the South Coast, or in Gauteng, Johannesburg municipality, we know 5 mayors have changed hands in the last 5 years. So those communities are picking us up on sort of stream and other platforms like Instagram and YouTube. So they are listening, and many people are beginning to wonder, what's the solution to the problem? This program may not have the full solution, but in time to come, we will get some indication, what is the right process or the roadmap towards achieving our objective. So I'd like to kick off this program with NOMSA KAMASHOBANE, SIBISI. NOMSA, maybe you can just give us a background, NOMSA, of your civic activism. You've been in the bloc for a long time. You've exposed yourself to the different political parties, and you've come a long way until you now finally decided that you want to make a change and join Afrika MAYIBUYE as a new civic structure with the view to getting feedback from communities so that you then know exactly what's the mandate to deliver. But before that, if you can just give us a quick rundown of, exactly how you started political activism and how you sort of move from the different, parties to ensure that you're now finally in the right block to really improve service delivery.
Thank you very much, Yunus. As you have said earlier on, that I KAMASHOBANE SIBISI. I grew up in a family of politics. Politics was our breakfast, our lunch, and our supper in my family. My grandfather was also involved in the struggle, and there was an event where people are calling it Impi Yamazambane, an old thing where the oppressors were killing people and burying them in the potato gardens, potato fields. And then that is how I grew up. And then I went to University of Zululand. I was involved in politics. I was an RC member there, and the history is history. I'm here now. I was also involved in the struggle. I went out and I trained handling guns and all that. I grew and I became, my first position was in the Youth League. I went on
Youth League of which party?
the ANC, the ANC, obviously, and it went on. I was the secretary in the sub-region, the ANC again. I'd never been in another organization except the ANC. Then there came the MK. I was there in the Women's League for a very short time, and because of the squabbles and the swearing and all, I decided to move because I am a pastor. I joined what we call in the MK, the MKIRM, which was Umkhonto Wesizwe Inter-Religious Movement. I was there as the secretary, national secretary, working with the guy who is now the Secretary General of the MK, Mr. Mwango, Dr. Mwango, by the way. We worked with him because we were coming from the MK religious desk, whereby in the MK, there was a religious sector which was recognized by the MK, which was called Psych. Then we merged with Psych, religious desk, and FBO. We waited for endorsement. I think they're still waiting even now. In our chat groups, we had chat groups. I don't even think any one of you here could have stood what was happening in those chat groups. There was swearing, vulgar, insulting other people, other pastors. Pastors were insulted by traditional healers. And eventually I heard about MAYIBUYE consultation process after seeing the insult and the suffering that was enjoyed by my president, Comrade Floyd Shivambu, while he was the MK Secretary General, and then he was kicked out, and then MAYIBUYE consultation process started, and then I was consulted to come and listen what was going on there, and I attended, and the history is what we see now. Is I am now the convener of the province. I went there to listen. I listened, I contributed, and the leadership saw it fit for me to be the convener of KZN. So now we are working as a consultation process, soon to be a political movement, which will be called Africa MAYIBUYE movement. That is the name of the party that will contest elections. But coming back to your question, when you asked about the preparation for the upcoming local government elections, over 600 political parties are registered in South Africa, with 383 registered for national and 226 registered for provincial and or in the municipal level. The Electoral Commission maintains the registry of these parties. Now, as MAYIBUYE for 2026, I would like to say that we are prepared. And we are going to contest elections for the local government. And the reason why I am speaking so confidently as the leader in the MAYIBUYE consultation process, soon to be Africa MAYIBUYE movement, is because what we have done in preparation for the movement to be installed as a party which will contest elections. We have crisscrossed the South African countries, the South Africa as a country. We've been to all the 9 provinces consulting the citizens. We have engaged all the groups, all the stakeholders, you name them, the Amakosi, we've been there. We have consulted with minority. We have consulted with pastors, which are religious leaders, traditional leaders. We have consulted our youth and the volunteers at large, where we were getting feedback because we asked questions there. The first question was, is there a need for a political party in South Africa? And the response was that there is a need. The reason why, because all the political parties that we have currently have failed to address the challenges of our people, have failed to provide what our people are expecting from the government who's leading them, the government whom they voted for. They are not happy. Our people are suffering. There is no land. There are no jobs. Education system is failing. The law, I don't know whether I should call the law, I should call it the law, whereby we find that when you are over 35 years, you are unemployable. And we have a lot of people who are voters between 35 upwards, and those people are not employable according to our government. So there is poor service delivery, decline in safety in our country. Property values are affected because we have a substance abuse as a huge issue in our country, gender-based violence, electricity shortage, water shortage. All those were findings that we found during our consultation processes. So the response of our people was that indeed there is a need for a political party. So what we were looking for as MAYIBUYE is for our people to tell us, yes, they need a new political party which will champion and make sure that there is service delivery in South Africa. There is no crime, no GBV. And they were also telling us what is it that they are expecting from us. As I have mentioned, all these findings that we got from our people. So we are ready as MAYIBUYE for the elections. Why? Because we are going to address what our people have told us.
Thanks, NOMSA. I have been interviewing other political parties in the series of our programs. The ANC, the DA, we invited them, the councillors, MPs. We invited MK members as well. You may know Viswan Reddy. He's been a regular guest here, and he always attacks other parties. We've had the smaller parties out here. And the message you're getting clearly is the fact that people must not be afraid if there's new parties coming in the block, as long as their vision is the vision that the taxpayer and the ratepayer wants, that is to deal with all the deliverable challenges that this country is facing.
Yes.
You came from the background of the ANC with struggle credentials for a considerable period of time.
Yes.
And many of the leaders of the ANC are actually saying that the ANC has declined because of maladministration, sort of chaotic deployment of ineffective individuals, ineffective politicians, and the list goes on. And then a lot of people are commenting that the EFF was a breakaway party from the ANC and MK was another breakaway party. Now, a lot of members from these parties are beginning to look and reflect and say, are we just a breakaway party and are we an extension of the ANC's failures? What do we really need to do? And what I'm hearing you saying is that you're all starting from the bottom and coming up rather than a top-down approach, in the sense that you're identifying the challenges and you're asking the people to tell us, here we are, we want to form a new party, and you tell us what you require. So with your mandate, we prepare a manifesto which will benefit. So I'm quite pleased that you are expressing yourself, that that's one of the ways of improving or taking care of the challenges we have. And we need to change government, but let's start off with local government. And you're saying you're prepared to challenge in all the provinces, not like some small parties will say that we just have a couple of hundred members and we will only contest elections in KZN. So you're going national.
Yes.
But we'll come back to you a little later with a few more tricky questions. But I'd like to bring in another politician, Councillor Mohammed Ismail, who's been for a couple of years in local government, a civic activist for a considerable period of time. Councillor Mohammed, you've heard NOMSA chatting, and in previous programs that you joined, there's always been concerns being raised by members of the public through your ratepayer associations. The list goes on. What the public is asking is, many people say, let's make a change in government. A lot of members that came here said minority parties must wake up, but minority parties may not be able to rule. What NOMSA is telling us, that she is now part of a forum that's going to have an all-inclusive agenda where everybody is going to be treated equal. There's not going to be discrimination. There's no such a thing as minorities. Everybody will be part of a party, and people will be appointed into positions on merit. If you're the right person in that ward, that's their approach. So can you comment on what you've been hearing, NOMSA, as a civic activist, as well as a current councillor? You might want to add, you might want to comment on certain issues.
I'm going to contest.
Go for it. Go for it, Mohammed Ismail.
This is the same rhetoric I've heard for a long time, just differently. Any party coming in is going to want to make change. Any party is going to make those promises. Any party is going to consult. As the ANC, as the ACC rather, excuse me for that. Got caught there.
You took the N out and you put the C there.
The C there, yeah. We came from the ground up.
Right.
We came from a background of community activism. We came from what we saw that was affecting the community. And we built our manifesto around that. And we built our structure around that. So we were at the ground ahead of anybody else in terms of what they want to do. So you're looking at a national structure and you're looking at a community structure in terms of where we were and where we're at. Like my colleague Nomsa was saying that we went to the people and we consulted with the people and we spoke on that. And I'll tell you straight up, I heard this from the EFF. I was in the EFF. I was in the top 10 leadership at one stage. I was called Commissar. So the rhetoric is there. How do we change the rhetoric? How do we move forward? And how do we convince the people? So when it comes to a change of leadership, it's going to be very, very difficult if you're going to get the masses voting for you. That's where we ended up in this last election with the GNU and the PNU and everything else. Now, when you're looking at politics as an activist and when you're inside a structure, completely two different things. How it works, the machine runs differently, completely. And you're going to ask me as a councillor, okay, what have you done and what did you do? So there are certain structures that we work with. And unfortunately or fortunately, sometimes you get support from departments, sometimes you don't get support from departments, and you're going to fight for that. And then, you've got ward councillors, you've got PR councillors. So that becomes a little bit tricky as you go along. So again, it's about management, it's about style and how people want to do things in terms of structure. And, just to unpack that a little bit further, I just want to digress a little bit when you're talking about wards falling apart. Like in the last few days, I've been dealing with issues from Ward 25. And that's been horrendous because Ward 25 is about the most neglected ward. And how do we fix those issues? It comes, a council is a conduit. Is a conduit between the community and the municipality. And that's basically what you do. You take those issues, you report back to, you report it to departments, to heads of department, and then you go back to the community and you tell them what's going on. But at a time, it becomes more difficult where there's a breakdown in communication. These things don't happen because it goes back again to leadership. And you can stand on your head and whistle through wherever you want to. It's tough. So management is an issue always. Management comes into play. If, again, we were talking about, I'm not going to use the word corruption, but I'm staying away from the word corruption.
Use the word maladministration.
Maladministration. You've got a thing like wasteful expenditure. I just saw the report that's coming through for a special council meeting tomorrow. There's 203 million rand.
In which department?
This is wasteful expenditure, falling under the municipal. Gosh, I forget the thing now. Sorry about that. So you have all these issues that's not being looked at effectively. A municipality, a government department must be run like a business, and it's got to be administered well. So, sorry, I just spoke about a few different things here, but just going back to Ms. NOMSA here, when we're talking about election campaigns, we're electioneering here right now as we speak. The elections are coming up. We're all prepared. We all want to get votes. But how do you make that difference by, and we're going to talk about the same rhetoric differently at all levels, because every single political party has one sort of background or one base. We want to be in charge, and we're going to make the change. ACC, our view or focus has always been ratepayers. So we would work with ratepayers in terms of improving the area and doing what we want to do and how we should be doing it. And then again, you find there's a breakdown in communication. Ratepayers are not happy with the councillor, the ward councillor not doing the work allegedly. Then PR councillors step in, and then you have conflict with the ward councillor and the PR councillor, and it just goes on. So the whole management process needs to be changed effectively to gain what we want to gain as a political party, or as an individual ward councillor, or as Afrika MAYIBUYE is saying, or ACC, or any party for that matter. And we have to look at change that is going to be positive for the people, but how do you bring the change in? So the rhetoric is there, but the effectiveness, and you said something earlier, the deliverable struggles. How do we eliminate that? And when and who is really going to do that?
We'll unpack that a little bit later. What I want to do is bring SHAHISTAH GAFFOOR in. SHAHISTAH, you're a community activist in Ward 31, and you cover other wards as well. And many a time, ratepayers contact you. Suddenly you have a electricity outage. Lights are gone, like last night. At 5 to 9, suddenly the lights flickered and went off, and straight away ORA had the complaints coming in. And Brother Ajmal, who somehow the other is an electrician, moved around and he got the lights back. And about 5 to 11 at night, he alerted everybody that, listen, we haven't found the fault. We got the lights back, but we may have it off again if the fault prevails. And as he said, the lights went off again and came on. But you were contacted as an activist. Mm-hmm. And you were not afraid at 11 o'clock in the night to start contacting the departments to find out what happens, because that's what activism is all about. Councillor ISMAIL is talking about, people want to see deliverables. So the role you're playing as a community activist, one is you're not being paid. Number two, you're a voluntary sort of servant in that position. But your love to help humanity is what motivates you to continue. 100%. Now, you've been involved in this setup for quite a number of years. Maybe for the benefit of our listeners out there, what motivates you to help people with the deliverables? And maybe you need to say, what are the common deliverables that you get notices of to attend to? Because you obviously got some contact with the municipality officials, and you know which buttons to press to get, the people on the ground to start sorting problems out.
So I stayed out of Ward 31 for quite a while, but I came in about 6-7 years back. And, when you don't stay there, you don't notice everything. But when I started staying there, I'm like, what is happening here? There is refuse all over. There's people just walking. There's drugs. People are smoking outside like, it's nothing. And then I had made friends with the old neighbors. And she was a spinster, staying alone, and she had problems with her electricity or this and that, and you could see she needed help because there was nobody else there. And I started helping her, and then the other neighbor heard about it and I started helping him. And then the 2021 floods came about. Remember, we had that was it 2021 or 2022?
Or thereabouts.
Yeah. And I couldn't sleep that night. I'm hearing these heavy rains and I'm like, what is happening around there? And that's when I was on all these crime groups. Wasn't service delivery, it was the crime groups, but we were passing information from this side to that side. And you got involved like that, and people noticed like, okay, you're involved in this, and they called you, and that's how my activism has started. And it's just over time I made contacts with a lot of people in the municipality. Sometimes it's somebody else reports a fault and they can't get hold of them, but they'll contact me because they know I stay in that area and I'm continuously reporting. So the name is now familiar with, you know, the certain departments. So, and you get some very helpful people. Like, I must commend the wastewater department. That's a brilliant department. On the ball, anytime, you know, they there. And over time as well, certain times you stand outside, you know, when there's a burst pipe, you're making sure things are happening. You meet contacts there, you meet the WDOs and stuff like that, and you make contact, and they are also very helpful at times. So it's just, you know, you built up that relationship, and some of them will only deal with you, and they'll say, don't give my number to somebody else. You know, if you want something, I'll deal with you. And so that's the kind of
So you derive pleasure in ensuring that people's concerns are being dealt with, particularly when it involves electricity outages, because people are in absolute darkness.
They will think nothing of messaging me at 2 a.m. And I would respond, and they ask me, don't you sleep? And I'm like, yeah, I sleep when I sleep. Like, you know, if I'm awake, I'll help you out. Same time, I don't have an issue. I don't get angry. Why are you messaging me at that part of the morning? I don't have an issue. If I'm awake, I will willingly want to assist you. And it'll worry me that you don't have electricity, you know, until I get it sorted and you respond, my electricity is back on. Thank you. I'm calm.
This is obviously civic activism, that whenever issues are raised, as a civic activist belonging to a particular ward, if it's brought to your attention, you got to contact the call centers and say, we got a crisis, and send your guys out to deal with it, because people feel, you know, sort of claustrophobic. They feel aggrieved when lights are off in an area. Many people get afraid.
Everything happens to them. It's and within 5 minutes, the lights are off. Do you know what's happening? I'm like, I don't know yet. We need the electricians to come, find the fault. They'll tell us, okay, this substation is down, or there's a break in this cable here, and then we'll know. I can't tell you within 5 minutes what is happening. I can tell you, yes, Springtown is off, Asherville's off, Morningside's off. I can tell you that it's a widespread outage, but I can't tell you exactly, you know, what is happening immediately until I get hold of the electrician. They on site, they tell me, okay, this happened.
Or if there's a water outage and the taps don't have water and people are now wanting to cook, they're wanting to have a shower, they're stuffed up and they're looking for urgent, response. So you contact the departments, okay, there's a burst pipe.
There's a burst pipe here, and, you know, you make sure they come on time, but then they'll sit there, there's no TLB, then they're digging manually with the spade and waiting for hours. Then the next shift comes, and then maybe the TLB comes, then they'll start digging. Then the next shift comes, okay, he'll replace the pipe. By the morning, you got a hole. We've got a hole now on, you know, Clayton Park, where Clayton Park is. We've got a hole that's about 1.5 by 1 meter deep. A car could easily fit in there. And not backfilled. They fixed it, not backfilled. It's just lying there. We are now begging, please just come and put sand there. You don't even have to tie. Just put sand, make safe for now. Begging for the last 3-4 days. I'm hoping that by today or tomorrow that they will backfill.
So the deliverables never end.
Never end.
You know, from sort of potholes on the road to street lights not working.
So they revamped our roads for parts of Asherville, parts of Overport were up for upgrade. They did that. They did it so well that they covered our water valves. You can ask Councillor Ismail. They had a burst pipe on Hill Street. The valves were covered. And we have same problems in Asherville. Some of the valves are covered. How can you do that? So now when there's a burst pipe in certain areas, more areas are going to be off because they have to now close off a valve further away. Or you're going to have to wait for a WDO to come in, locate those valves. Those guys going to dig it for you to now close that valves to effect the repairs. So it's like nobody supervises anybody. It's just free for all.
I think now what you've done, SHAHISTAH, is, NOMSA mentioned the challenges she's heard out there. Councillor Ismail says as ACC, they heard a lot of challenges. He's in council. There's more challenges. You as a civic activist representing the ratepayer associations are highlighting challenges and how you're dealing with it. We'll take a news break, and inshallah, after the news break, we'll continue with this discussion.
Radio Ansaar, 24/7, 365.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Ansaar News.
Making news this hour, the 27th of August. The news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says crime fighting is a collective effort and should continue with or without him. America Monina. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says fighting crime is a collective responsibility that must continue with or without him. Mkhwanazi had been speaking ahead of the 27th Interpol African Regional Conference in Cape Town today. The event sees police chiefs from across 193 member countries gathering alongside Interpol's top leadership to strengthen cooperation in tackling cross-border crimes. Mkhwanazi blew the whistle on the alleged corruption within the South African police service. He claimed that criminal syndicates had infiltrated the police and justice system and that politicians interfered with high-profile investigations. The revelations prompted President Ramaphosa to announce a judicial commission of inquiry. More news: a special zoning and master plan for the development of the Clearwood Logistics Park has been recommended to eThekwini's Executive Committee for approval. Report says the next step is for the report to be adopted by the full council. The proposed special zone and master plan will assist decision makers when applications for Clearwood are submitted for consideration. According to the report, the Durban South suburb is strategically located to evolve into a logistics park. eThekwini authorities say there are still some challenges. These include small sites and blocks, narrow roads, and a mix of residential and industrial activity that limit Clearwood's capacity for logistics growth. Authorities say creating a hub would require a redesign of the existing area. However, the Clearwood Ratepayers Association previously told local media that many residents felt excluded from the process and that they had not been given enough information and developments. More news: local media says the South African government is still holding talks with the US government following US tariffs. Media reports says the tariffs threaten South Africa's economy. Minister of International Relations Ronald Lamola has this to say.
South Africa and the United States continue to engage at the highest level, as evidenced by the recent teleconference between President Ramaphosa and President Trump. While discussions on issues such as the 30% unilateral trade tariffs imposed by the US highlight areas of concern, the bilateral relationship remains resilient and continuing in terms of engagements.
Still with Lamola, he also touches upon regional issues and how it affects South Africa.
President Ramaphosa recently held a teleconference with President Zelensky of Ukraine, President Emmanuel Macron of France, and President Alexander Stubb of Finland. Additional calls with other European leaders will follow in coming days and weeks to discuss key international developments, including the ongoing situation in Ukraine and Russia. The Director General of the Department, Mr. Zen Dengo, has been in Kiev recently to meet with the different actors in government, including in the foreign ministry and national security structures, towards efforts to sustain South Africa's support for the peace initiative and also the Africa initiatives and all global efforts aimed at finding long-lasting peace.
More news now. September marks more than just the start of a new season. It will also usher in a new digital era for the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA. Report says from the 1st of September, all social grant beneficiaries will be required to undergo mandatory biometric enrollment. The move, according to SASSA spokesperson Pesega Letsasi, will speed up applications, improve efficiency. It will also help eliminate fraudulent activities and strengthen the verification processes. In a statement earlier in the week, the agency announced that grant applications captured in the system and approved from the 1st of September will include biometric fingerprint enrollment or facial recognition through the electronic Know Your Client. And finally, international story. Former U.S. ambassador to the Israeli-occupied territories, Jacob Lew, has stated that the children of fighters of the Palestinian Hamas resistance movement in Gaza may be regarded as legitimate targets for the Tel Aviv regime. Lew, who served in that role during the latter part of the Biden administration, made the remarks in an interview with international media. Throughout the interview, Lew encountered allegations of protecting the far-right coalition of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Netanyahu. Israeli political figures have consistently made public declarations asserting that individuals in Gaza, especially children, cannot be deemed innocent. The Israeli military has pursued a brutal offensive on Gaza since the 7th of October 2023, dismissing international appeals for ceasefire, resulting in the deaths of at least 62,819 Palestinians, predominantly women and children. Your weather, 24 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. KwaZulu-Natal Police Chief Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says fighting crime is a collective responsibility that must continue with or without him. That's the news.
Radio Ansaar, keeping you in the loop.
At this time of trial and worry, the blessings of charity are the ideal means to avoid calamity and despair. The Al-Imdad Foundation gives you the opportunity to sponsor a share in a borehole in South Africa for just 1,000 rand and provide what the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, called the best form of charity. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Craving for an easy, spicy and delicious meal made in minutes? Introducing Easy Mee Goreng, Korean-style instant noodles from Noodle King. This delicious, flavorful noodles is ready in minutes with a kick in every bite. Get your pack of Easy Mee Goreng at a retail store near you. Noodle King also boasts a whole variety of other delicious pantry must-haves. Look out for our brands at your favorite retail stores.
The Hazrat Sufi Sahib Basha Pir Darbar, Riverside, Durban, Kenville invites you and your family to the 133rd Urus Sharif and 165th anniversary of Hazrat Sheikh Ahmed Basha Pir Rahmatullahi Ta'ala Alayh from the 22nd August to the 29th August 2025. The Chatti Sharif of Hazrat Sheikh Ahmed Basha Pir Rahmatullahi Ta'ala Alayh will be on the 29th or 30th of August depending on sighting of the moon. Program starts with Asr Salah, Quran Khatam, Maghrib Salah, Niyaz Supper, Juluse Sandal, flag hoisting, Mehfile Sama Kawali. Please note there will be only men for this program.
AI is changing the way we teach and learn. Are you ready to keep up? Join us for a dynamic seminar on how educators can harness artificial intelligence effectively in the classroom. Al-Ansar Hall, Overport, Saturday, 6 September from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Tickets 150 Rand, available at the Al-Ansar shop.
A fire which burned for 1,000 years, extinguished. The fire worshippers of Persia, prior to the arrival of the Prophet ﷺ, kept a fire burning for 1,000 years. When the Prophet was born, this fire ceased to burn and went out. Narrated by Imam Bayhaqi. This was a sign that a truthful Prophet ﷺ has arrived and was calling people to the truth, worshipping Allah alone.
A station for conversation, Radio Al-Ansar.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
Allah, 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 Allah. तन्हा हूँ मैं और इंतहा लाखों तने हैं सामने बैठा हूँ मैं मायूस कुन आए ना कोई मुझे थामने अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير मायूब हूँ तेरा करम करता रखा इज्जत भी दी बढ़ के दिया औकात से दौलत भी ताकत भी और वक्त भी कर दे खता हर माफ तू फहरिस्त इसियां को छोड़ दे अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर रंगीनियों खुद गर्जियों में है गुजारी ये उम्र है आरज़ू बस कि यही कर दूं तेरे नाम शामो सहर तस्कीन दिल हासिल करूं रुख अपनी जानिब तू मोड़ दे अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर लब पे रहे जिक्र दुआ और तुझसे मैं डरता रहूं करके अमल कुरान पे जन्नत की राहों पे चलता रहूं खिदमत करूं इस्लाम की पछतावे का गम तोड़ दे अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर रोता रहा सजदों में जो दिल में लिए उम्मत का गम पढ़ता रहूं मैं तो फतन अपने नबी पे दुरूद हर कदम हो रूह जब तन से जुदा जन्नत की जानिब चले दौड़ कर अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुना व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marsburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Before the news break, we were chatting along the lines of how do we react to service delivery challenges, and both Councillor Ismail and Shahistah GAFFOOR indicated, the manner in which they began to start responding to service delivery issues, which should have been the, sort of job of the councillors, but also these challenges should not be as frequent as they are happening. Now, I want to chat briefly about the national dialogue that was introduced by President Ramaphosa. When the African National Congress ascended to power in 1994, it carried with it a promise of transformation, and then social grants has become a crutch for survival for many of this context. President Ramaphosa's recent rhetorical questions leading up to his national dialogue, such as why are the taps dry, why has our healthcare collapsed, expose a disconnect between leadership and living realities of ordinary South Africans. Now, the question that many people are raising is, civil society has been active pre-apartheid era, and NOMSA indicated to us that they've been part of the struggle for democracy back in the days. And thereafter, the government of national unity and the national elections, and the ANC, won the elections by a whopping majority with its freedom charter, with its, manifesto, with its constitution, which is the people's constitution, with the promise of a better life for all. And now we're back to square one, with a national dialogue. So the representation of the, communities in the national dialogue is questionable. And also what impact it's going to make in civil society and in service delivery needs to be, assessed and analyzed. Because if the president is talking, why are the taps dry and why has our healthcare collapsed, and a dozen of other service deliverables, 30 years into democracy, he's talking about it. So I'd like to bring NOMSA, KAMASHOBANE, CIBISI back because NOMSA mentioned that, a lot of people, political reps, are concerned about the failure of these parties, and they're deciding to sort of get involved in dealing with these deliverables. NOMSA, I want you to just chat briefly of, what is your viewpoint on the national dialogue, and do you think it's a bit too late to have something like that?
Yes, I think it's a bit too late for the government. In fact, what the government is trying to do now, it's something that should have been done before. To support what I'm saying, Batman here is a councillor or a PR councillor. He's in the municipality, but he's crying just like us. He's complaining just like us. That's the reason why we as MAYIBUYE are starting from the bottom, from the civil society, from the people. Get info, get data, get their challenges, then govern, addressing their challenges. If we are the leaders and in government, having voted for by our people, we should come with solutions. We should not be, when you are with people and people are complaining, saying, we need this, we don't have electricity, there is crime in our community, and you are a leader in the community and you say, hey, crime is too much. No, bring solutions. Let me come to the issue of national dialogue. According to what I know, dialogue should include all the stakeholders. But this dialogue, I see it as an untruly process because key groups are not being involved. Civil societies, other organizations, and the marginalized communities are left out. So government-initiated dialogues are not candid. They're manipulated by the ruling parties. They are performative, without resulting in real actions, The recent government-organized dialogue is more like a grandstanding which has absolutely nothing to do with South Africans' challenges. DA MK withdrew and condemned it, saying it was a self-serving political exercise meant to legitimize under closed deals or behind closed doors deals. They have no confidence in the ANC anymore. Why? They are also saying that this national dialogue cost more than 700 million. And they call it just an expensive talk shop. You know? So this national dialogue is not addressing any urgent issues that are engulfing our people. It is just going to promote whatever they want to promote. That is why we've seen Thabo Mbeki distancing himself from this national dialogue. Sudan national dialogue that was arranged by or initiated by the President Salva has faced criticism as well for its exclusion of minority, its exclusion of the key people, the ratepayers, the voters who put people into government, but they are excluding them. It's just a classy thing, a modern thing. It has nothing to do with people. We, as MAYIBUYE, we went down to the people. That was the real dialogue. You know, our consultation processes that have taken place in South Africa, that is the real national dialogue. Because some of the people who sit there in nice chairs, in air-conditioned rooms, they know nothing about suffering. They never lived in a shack. But they say they are speaking on behalf of our people. I'm saying these political parties should have started by consulting the people before they initiate national dialogues where they are there in parliaments. The real parliament is our people who are living in farms, who are living in informal settlement, who are living in township. That is where the national dialogue should take place. And I'm proud of my movement because that is where we have started. And as we approach local government elections, we are going to have our manifestos, and our manifestos are going to be determined by the findings that we got from our consultation processes. You go to Pietermaritzburg, where I come from, there is a place there in East Street. It is called Jiga Joe. People are living in boxes. Boxes were built for them to live in and wait for the flats that were built for those residents up to today. The flats were done. They're complete. They're there. But teachers, nurses, police occupied those flats. And these people are still living in those difficult conditions, horrible conditions. There is a river there. Drains are blocked. They are living next to the river. Their shacks are always bent. No one is taking care of those people. As MAYIBUYE, we need to make this government, the local municipality there, to account. Why are they letting our people live in such conditions? And they call themselves leaders in the community. They were voted in by people. Where is the allocation? Where is the money? How are they using the funds? Because they should be taking care of our people. So our dialogue as MAYIBUYE is done. We are ready. We know what to do because our people told us their challenges.
Okay, Nomsa, we're talking about Msunduzi. There's a lot of listeners listening to us in the East Street area where Jiga Joe is. I was born and brought up in that area, and I know there was a hostel in the corner there. There was a clinic on the other corner. But the potholes are so enormous that you can't find a decent road in Msunduzi. So our listeners out there are telling us
Yeah.
You're being under administration for so long. What's going on? Because there's hardly any service delivery. There's just infighting.
Yeah.
Recently, they appointed Mike Sutcliffe in there, and let's hope he can make the changes. But we'll unpack that a little bit later. I'd like to bring in our economist and asset manager, Mr. Hassan MOTALA. Hassan, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome once again to News in Focus.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hassan, I was mentioning when I introduced the second half of this program that when the ANC ascended into power in 1994, it carried a promise of transformation. Now, social grants is becoming a crutch for survival. So obviously, there's been a disconnect in basically economic distribution in this country. Recently, ex-Minister of International Relations, Naledi Ponda, had a go at the ANC as an activist and ANC member for decades and pre-apartheid activist as well. She was brave enough to have a go at the ANC and the decline. But there's also emphasis on unemployment increasing, in large numbers every year. More than 35% of people that are employable are unemployed, and more than 40% of the youth are unemployed. And I think NOMSA mentioned it looks like beyond 35 years old, there's no work. And people are struggling. In the informal settlements, people can't eke out a living. Social grants are under 2,500, and it's not enough to meet your expenditure. So from an economic perspective, this disconnect or disjuncture between wealth amongst the people, you may want to comment what was the cause of this problem.
Sure. I think if you look at since 1994 through to now, it's over 31 years. The period of 1994 through to 2000 was a big consolidation phase that had taken place. So first President Mandela, and then Thabo Mbeki, President Mbeki had taken over. When President Mandela, during his term, with his finance minister, and remember there was also still the
Trevor Manuel was the finance minister.
But you had also there was still the Chris Stalls and all the MP, the white MPs were still around. So it was a transition, but it was also because remember they had taken over a country at that point in time that was also under massive pressure from the sanctions that had been put in place for a number of years because of apartheid and the like. The white minority government during that time, the apartheid government, had also faced huge amount of pressure, and that put the country in a very difficult situation. So the rand was already under pressure. Our fiscal situation was under pressure. Our debt levels was also under pressure. When President Mandela came in, and he instituted, and through his finance minister, focused on firstly consolidation. So there was not much on spending 6 to 7 years, there was a period of just focus on getting the fiscal situation under control and getting the balance sheet under control, and they did it pretty well. They actually brought it to up to 2002 until 2001. You had you had also economic crisis. You had September 11, all of that had taken place, and 2002 again was a global financial crisis issues you had as well. But because the balance sheets were relatively strong, South Africa managed itself relatively okay during that time. Also bearing in mind, in 1994, our population was 35 or 36 million, maybe 40 million max, but say 36 million, around that level, or maybe 40 million at 1994. We've had massive growth. So 2000 through to 2008, we had one of the best periods of growth in this country ever seen. Thabo Mbeki was in charge at that time, but it was on the back of the fact that you had, firstly, a solid fiscal situation. During that time, every year, Minister of Finance was allowed to cut tax rates during that period. So remember, also income tax went from 45% maximum, it went to 40 or even below. But even those that in the middle income and below saw tax relief coming through a lot. So it allowed people firstly to spend. So firstly, consumers, those that were employed, unemployment also had come down, and it allowed them, so you had more people being employed, you had consumer spending had shot up quite dramatically because inflation had come down a bit, interest rates had come down, so it allowed spending to take place. The second thing that helped us between 2000 to 2008, you had a booming China. And China was consuming materials at a phenomenal rate. And South Africa, being a resource-rich country, was exporting and mining huge amounts of iron ore, coal, copper, platinum. We were exporting all these minerals to China. We were getting fantastic commodity prices. We were getting good volumes. And guess what? Our state institutions were actually working okay during that time. Transnet was actually working relatively well. They were shipping out phenomenal amounts of volumes through the ports and we had actually a functioning rail network during that time that worked fantastically well during that period of time. Then we had the global financial crisis. You had President Zuma that came in. Then you had
before
the start.
that, Mbeki.
But that was all. Mbeki had his pros and he had his cons. His pros was that he led a period of one of the best growths ever seen in this country. And he was a statesman, and he had also relatively strong ministers within his cabinet. There's always going to be really duds in there, but he had some really strong ministers in certain key positions. His faults was obviously, everyone knows, HIV was his biggest issue. And he's had also some, and the other issue was the lack, while they were going through the boom, the one thing they lacked in terms of foresight was spending on infrastructure, on energy. And that's where, remember, from 2008 onwards, when did we learn first ever about load shedding? 2008 was effectively the year everybody started to learn this new term about load shedding, because they had not spent enough on new plants that had come through. Then President Zuma came in, and the commission around Kusile and Madupi and whatever came through. And we thought, okay, these two fantastic, supposedly supposed to have been two really big power plants coming in would help us in terms of our energy solutions. The other thing that helped President Zuma was that the fact that when the economy slowed down, energy consumption eased. That's why, those are the MK supporters. They'll talk about, look at President Zuma's era, load shedding had dropped. That's not because of President Zuma had done phenomenally in terms of seeing increased production of energy. It was demand had decreased substantially because of when the global financial crisis, the economies collapsed everywhere, South Africa and globally. So demand by your big miners, your corporates and whatever had eased off. So therefore that. Now we had a period of, from 2008 onwards when President Zuma, you had a slow but steady impact across the board. So firstly, we had the impact of the financial crisis. And then you had where government now started to spend. And when I mean spend, they spent massive amounts of money. Huge. When you see what the government debt did from 2008 through to 2018. When was the first year that President Ramaphosa came in? Was it 2018, 29, somewhere around there? When the government debt, what it had done, it had ballooned. It had started to do, because firstly, they were spending on the state institutions. There was because of the financial crisis, there was an increase in terms of employment within the public sector. So while the public sector came in and started to employ a lot more people. But when they employed, there was a lot of obviously cadres, there was a lot of deployments and whoever. So you just filled up, but there was no value being created by a lot of the people coming in and being employed.
It was like wasteful expenditure.
Then we came into the wasteful and the irregular. And from the Guptas to whoever that were, within the system, and we're still seeing it carrying on today. It's entrenched, unfortunately, and it's systemic. The thing is, you've had massive amounts of irregular and wasteful expenditure across institutions. And the thing was, President Zuma had ensured that his deployments in the various institutions were all loyal to him. And that carried it out, including SARS. Remember, Moyani was employed by him. And he led also the structure. The only institution at that time that held steady and was National Treasury. And remember, that's when he wanted to. Remember, we had the weekend special that had taken place, where you've had the firing and hiring and refiring, all of that had taken place during that weekend. What the rand did during that period, it collapsed.
He fired late Praveen
Gordhan. And so we've had a period of that. So the issue that we've had and why we're facing these challenges is that you've had a period now of close to 16, 17 years where we've had massive amounts of corruption in terms of irregular expenditure, spending for services that are not value adding. Then you've had also where you've spent money like Madupi, Kusile, they're not performing at optimal levels. You've had Transnet. They bought locomotives from China that can't operate. They spent billions, but no use to the country. Now you're having to try and jigger it, and same with the ports. And you've had so many issues. The issue now is all of that has accumulated. You've got a country that's sitting on one of the highest debt levels in a long time.
So trillions of dollars was just wasted during that period. And it caused a huge impact on the economy of this country.
Has had a huge economy. I mean, I was looking at, where was that one amount? I saw it, if I pick it up just now, whatever. I mean, on the rail economy, there was a 1 year. So, for example, now the Minister of Transport, Baba Creasy, has announced that 11 private operators now have been approved, and they will now assist in terms of the rail transport system, which will be fantastic because you'll have public-private partnerships and hopefully it'll help. But she said, what you call this, her name is Busi Mavuso, who's the BLSA CEO. She indicated that in the period there was about the logistics just during the period of a crisis that we had for a number, 100 billion impact on the economy just on the mining sector. Just on the mining sector in the last decade, 100 billion rand impact just on one sector and in one industry because of logistics. So you can understand the impact on the economy is massive from the various state sectors that were really ravaged and put into disrepair. Now it's a very difficult job to now try and but slowly, I think there is some improvements. You've seen it. We haven't had really load shedding for a long time now. We've had stable electricity, and guess what that's doing? It's helping the SMEs grow their businesses. So slowly the SMEs are doing a bit better. They're employing people, and you're seeing that slowly there's something. Look, we got a long way to go. But you know what? Now, I think we're in a better place than we were a year ago, and we were in a better place than we were 2 years ago. Because there's been some improvement and I think if you get the rail right, you get the ports right, again, that will create momentum in the economy. It will also but you need, again, the right people in the right institutions. You need that. And the unfortunate thing with the current government is that there's no willpower to basically make the hard decisions. That's the unfortunate thing. And we've had at least some decent deployments in certain but I mean, when you look at IDT, what we in the last few weeks, what we've seen today, Minister Gonangwana has now had to place the CEO of the largest pension fund in the country, GPF. He's now placed the CEO on basically on leave because now there's allegations of massive corruption. They're talking about there's a lease with one of the head office. They're talking about over 1.2 billion potentially against some corruption related issues. How can we have this? And that's the issues we face, is that if you don't have the right people, and you have to just root it out. But the unfortunate thing is the whistleblowers that come through, they get executed. Look at Babita Dukran.
Many others as well.
Many others have been. Just recent the last month or so, I think there was one or two. One of the municipal managers, and there was some other executed because any whistleblowers. So you need to give the right. There was an interesting thing as well I noted. While this is taking place, where people have lost confidence in terms of government, private sector is taking over many services in the country. We were just talking earlier about the ratepayers associations and the roles they play now in municipalities because of the lack of service delivery and the like that's taking place by those that are entrusted to do it. And therefore, the ratepayers associations have to come in and push them and try and do a lot of the work on. But look at the educational sector. Look at the security sector. Look at the healthcare sector. How much of that now is private sectors are playing a major part in that? Do you know the security sector? How many active policemen do we currently have in this country? 145,000 active policemen. How many active security personnel by the private sector do we have in this country? 600,000. 2001, there was only 50,000 security personnel in this country, and close to over 120,000 police. Now you're only sitting with 144,000, 145,000. And remember, our population has gone up from 40 to 65 million, but our police force has declined, but the private security is there because the public has lost confidence in many of the services provided by governments.
Thank you, Hassan. On that note, we'll take a short break and we'll wrap up after the break.
ये दुनिया जो कहे नहीं परवाह कोई, ये दुनिया जो कहे नहीं परवाह कोई, जश्न नबी का हम सदा मनाएंगे। महीना आ गया रबीउल का महीना आ गया, नबी की महफिलें तो हम सजाएंगे। है विलादत शहे अंबिया की उस नबी मुस्तफा की, जिसके दम से है रौनक जहां की, उस हबीबे खुदा की। समाये चार सू उन्हीं की गुफ्तगू, समाये चार सू उन्हीं की गुफ्तगू, उन्हीं के जिक्र से ये दिन मनाएंगे। महीना आ गया रबीउल का महीना आ गया, नबी की महफिलें तो हम सजाएंगे। दो जहां के लिए मेरे आका अब्रे रहमत बने हैं, वो जो आए जहां में तो देखो गलियां कूचे सजे हैं। बहारें आ गई नबी जो आ गए, बहारें आ गई नबी जो आ गए, हम उनके आने की खुशी मनाएंगे। महीना आ गया रबीउल का महीना आ गया, नबी की महफिलें तो हम सजाएंगे। कहकशाओं ने गाए तराने, नगमे गाए फजाने, कहकशाओं ने गाए तराने, नगमे गाए फजाने, गीत भी है सुनाए हवा कैसे पल ये सुहाने खिली है हर गली चरागा हर गली खिली है हर गली चरागा हर गली अंधेरे अब कभी कहीं न छाएंगे महीना आ गया महीना आ गया नबी की महफिलें तो हम सजाएंगे जब तस्वुर किया मैंने ऐसा कि नबी सामने है हो गई दूर सारी बलाएं कि नबी सामने है मेरी तो पोस्ट पे है दस्ते मुस्तफा मेरी तो पोस्ट पे है दस्ते मुस्तफा कभी भी हम न मेरे पास आएंगे महीना आ गया महीना आ गया नबी की महफिलें तो हम सजाएंगे लिख रहा है ये तारीफ रमज़ान आमदे मुस्तफा की है ये कितना खुदा का करम है अता मुस्तफा की उन्हीं के नाम से मिली है इज़्ज़तें उन्हीं के नाम से मिली है इज़्ज़तें उन्हीं का नाम हम तो गुनगुनाएंगे महीना आ गया महीना आ गया नबी की महफिलें तो हम सजाएंगे महीना आ गया महीना आ गया नबी की महफिलें तो हम सजाएंगे
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the final section of News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM, streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Before the news break, our asset manager and chartered accountant Hassan gave us an overview of why the decline, what's been the cause of the high degree of unemployment. And I thought we'll have a break, a nasheed break for Rabiul Noor, the month of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the month of Noor. Alhamdulillah, beautiful nasheed, just to break the discussion, but we'll continue our discussion for the next 20 minutes or so. I want to bring in Brother Abdul Valodia. He's the chairman of Overport Ratepayers Association. He's been listening attentively in the studio, and he's been telling me that, of concern recently is the migration of vagrants from the Centrum area and other areas, into different wards, Ward 25, Ward 31, Ward 27. And these vagrants, are causing major problems because they're not only squatting in the areas, in the street corners, but they also involve in smash and grabs. They're also collecting, donations in the street corners and using that money to buy drugs. And they're causing major problems in the different wards. Recently, in the chat groups of the ratepayer associations, a lot of, problems have been reported, about the vagrants, and video footage has come through. They're breaking into houses, they're stealing copper pipes, they're causing all kinds of problems in the area. Now, whilst we're talking about service delivery, security, as pointed out by NOMSA, Councillor ISMAIL, is a huge problem in the country. And this is being exacerbated by these vagrants because metropolis are not acting decisively. They're allowing these individuals to beg in the street corners. And what happens is when the motorists, they want to give them, some donations or what, suddenly you get the handbag and the cell phones being grabbed from the cars. And it's difficult for these elderly people to give chase. And, in lots of areas, there are hotspots with smash and grabs, etc. So how do we deal with these vagrants? And I'm sure they're affecting all areas throughout the country. So Abdul, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As chairman of ORA, in your group, I noticed a lot of people are reporting the activities of these vagrants and they're complaining, what to do, how to handle these guys. They're coming up with all kinds of solutions. Perhaps you just want to give us an indication, and I'd like, Shahistah to cover it thereafter in Ward 25 and the surrounds. It's a similar problem. So is this becoming a problem in the various wards, Abdul?
Wa alaikum salam, Yunus. And basically, we did come up with a program that we've actually advertised on the group on ORA. Let's reclaim Overport. And this program has been running for the last few years. It's not something new. But what we noticed, the vagrants in the area is becoming to an epidemic level. And this is due to our people themselves. End of the day, if you look at what happens in communities, you'll find a vagrant coming in, and if people don't help them, they will not stay here. But our community is such a giving community that you'll always find people assisting them with all type of, money, food, bread. A person comes to you and says, please assist me with a loaf of bread. That little lady that walks to the shop and, she feels that, listen, guy's not asking me for money. He's asking me for bread. I think Batman wrote something on the ORA group. I think it was yesterday. I actually observed something. He said that he witnessed himself that, a lady bought a loaf of bread and the vagrant took the bread and went to a shop. And if you look at him, he's got sores on his legs, right? He had sores on his legs and he takes the same loaf of bread. He goes to the shops and go and sell it back, where it comes back to you again. So you might be thinking that you might be giving that person a loaf of bread and you're helping him out. You're actually not helping him out. You're helping him out. Reality, a price of bread today is in the region about 15 to 20 rands, right? If I stand to correction. He takes it and goes sells it at the shop for 5 rand or 10 rand. He's only interested in that 5 or 10 rand that he received to get his fix. But that's the reality what's happening. So people are not standing out there because out of need. They're standing out there because of the drug epidemic that's in the area. And drugs is one of the biggest things in our area. And unfortunately, this is happening due to our own people. That's helping these people on the street corners. And this is something that we need to stop. And people must stop this issue of giving to people on the streets. If you want to give something, there's an institution. There's a lot of organizations. Ansaar does fantastic work. Come to Ansaar. You got boxes up here, Yunus. Yes. You got boxes in here. People can come and come and donate their money. We
distribute 400 loaves bread a day. Yeah.
Every day I see your trucks are coming in with bread, right? You're distributing almost 400.
And we're giving it to needy people.
Yes. So this is happening. So why should community now involve themselves in giving out these little street, so-called street car guards? Today it's become a norm now. It becomes so irritating. Whenever you go to a corner, you find somebody with a little, jacket, and he wants to be a street guard. He wants to try and help you to park your car, and then you feel obligated to give him that 5 rand or 2 rand, whatever the figure is. You say, what's the big deal? It's a 2 rand. But you've created more people to actually come in by helping him and giving him this money. There's many other organizations. If you look at chairperson, we've seen some areas in informal sectors. People don't even have bread to eat there. They don't even have even water to drink. Real work for community should be out there, not to these little, so-called members that's coming out here on the road and you feel them sorry. So these type of vagrants are obviously going to tear the city down, and our neighborhood now is looking like a junk area. Then we've got the area Sheringham Road. If you look at Sheringham Road, it's an old story. It's not something new. It's been there for years. And that's an influx of
informal settlements.
Informal settlement. But guess what? Majority of the people are actually foreigners. Majority are foreigners. They're not
in that informal settlement.
Yes.
And there's a drug den there as well.
100%. So everywhere in Overport, take a drive in any corner and go. Drug dens are all over.
And they're supplying drugs to the youth.
Exactly.
And these youth now are becoming drug addicts and causing another scourge to the community.
I mean, you're seeing somebody on the road busting up some child as well. You know, these type of actions are happening. So we must stop this nonsense. And Overport is becoming like a slum, unfortunately.
Well, it's one of the areas, like the many areas that are facing the same scourge.
And we look at ourselves in the streets. We also find another issue where we have a lot of foreigners occupying flats, apartments in the area. Right? Undocumented for all I care as well. So landlords as well play a very important role in this vicinity regarding the upkeeping of this area. There's a lot of things that people need to take stock of themselves. And, you know, I would always say, stop blaming governments, start blaming ourselves first. The reason ORA was actually formed was to assist communities for service in the area. There was no need for ORA to be formed, and this is not hinting to Batman, right? This is no need. If councillors in all areas throughout South Africa would have done their jobs, there was no need to do it. Why should Ratepayers Association be out there to hold councillors accountable for something that what people are paying for? You know, surprising that we guys, when you go to a shop, you buy something, you pay for the item, and you walk away. When there's an issue with it, you run back to the shop. Yeah, you're paying your rates and taxes and your services, but what are you doing? You're not doing anything about it. You know what? Our people don't even make a noise about it.
And you're paying large amounts of money.
And you're paying large amount of money. And it continues. If you look at the escalation of, you know, cost today, of rates, of taxes, of electricity, we are actually one of the highest paying areas.
More than 50% of your disposable income is going in those taxes. So and in return, you're getting 10% of service delivery.
I think people need to get their act together.
Shaista, I want to bring you in here because I know you active on the ground with dealing with these vagrant issues. What are your observations in terms of the vagrants, and is the situation getting bad to us?
It is getting bad to us. If you've seen in the recent months, there's been a major influx. And I think it has to do with the inner city regeneration, where they cleaning up town, the beachfront, and they're moving into Greyville, then they're moving into Musgrave, and then they're moving into Overport. It's a ping pong game. One person's pushing them there, the other person's pushing them there. Where do you put them? Where are they coming from? We don't even know that.
So they're becoming car guards and begging in street corners.
Everything, and they're becoming entitled. The other day I was driving past and my aircon stopped working, so I had my window open, and I don't ever drive with my window open. And I didn't give the beggar something, and he tells me, oh, well, you're lucky I'm a good person. I don't make bad prayers for you. You don't want to give me anything, so I won't give you bad luck.
So they're cursing.
So they're cursing you on the road. And you, I mean, I won't give anybody at the road. And I know why. You see guys selling at the road, you don't want to buy something from them. Okay, they're not doing the right thing either. But at least they are trying to make money legally. And then you want to go and give a beggar who's standing next to him doing nothing. You want to give him 5 rand for nothing, but you don't want to support somebody. So I wouldn't give any beggars on the road anyway. That's how I am. But recently it's been horrible. They are just more and more new faces all over the place. Every day, there's new water meters being stolen. People's copper pipes are being stolen. And if your water meter is stolen, good luck trying to get it replaced, because the municipality says there's no stock. That is the current stock.
So the best thing for you to do is to do the direct connection. So
direct connection, you don't know, but then they estimate. And they give you the estimate they want.
So you must just hope that you had a low water reading, so your estimate won't be high.
And forever they're estimating. You don't even know what your actual water consumption is. So it's been terrible. Just way too many new faces all around. And Overport is lucrative for that. It's a one-stop shop. You get your money, you get your food, you're getting your accommodation, you're staying wherever you want in Overport, you're buying your drugs, and the whole cycle begins again. And we people feel that we must give them. It's our religion to give. But they're not understanding.
You're giving the wrong people.
You're giving the wrong people. You can see they are high. Their eyes are red, glazed. But you feel that you must give them. I don't see how people can even think that way. And we have the problem with them feeding in the areas. We don't have a problem with feeding, but feed where it's needed. don't call the people to our area and feed them, because like we had somebody from the informal settlements that were here, and he says when they have the soup kitchen or the feeding schemes on the grounds and wherever, bus loads of people that don't even live in the area you're bringing in to eat. So after they are done eating, what are they doing? They're roaming our streets. And while they're waiting for their food or the food to be delivered, they are busy searching everywhere else. Where can we go? Who's selling what? Or, where can I steal something from? It's a reality. So I think everybody needs to play their part in this.
So vagrancy is a huge problem throughout the country, throughout the city, throughout the different municipal areas. We need to wrap up. We on 10 o'clock now. We got another 10 minutes. Councillor Ismail, I want to bring you in. You're a ward councillor. You're also a civic activist in and around these wards. Your comments on vagrancy, and I don't want you to only comment on it. What is the solution to it? Do we get better policing? We get Metro Police to round these guys up?
It's not so much about policing or Metro policing. It's about us as a community. I'll ask you one question. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares if your streets are dirty? Who cares if they're rummaging through your bins? Who cares if they're on drugs? We support their habits. No doubt about it. No two ways about it. That's why a few years ago when I initiated the Don't Give campaign through the Mayville Community Police Forum ahead of being a councillor, we got flack. We got flack from it. And the issue was that they told us, the community said, no, why are you telling us not to give? Why are you this? Why are you that? But hey, you are the victims of crime. You are the ones supporting the drug habits. You are the ones who are perpetuating the situation. And whatever Shahistah said is true. It's absolutely true. And you'll see what's going on out there. Drugs is the worst. Attitude is bad. We need to take ownership of our streets. We need to ensure that we maintain an orderly community. Like Mr. Valodia, they were saying about the OVERPORT Residents Association or Ratepayers Associations. They need it. They absolutely need it. Whether I'm a councillor or not, I mean, I'm telling you that because they are conduit with the councillor, because you bring that through to the councillor, Abdul, and this is where you guys come in. So there's got to be no fight between the councillor and the Ratepayers Association. There's got to be a working synergy. But then again, we find that councillors think that the Ratepayers Associations are there to take over their job, which is what's happening, and that's misinformation. But the issue of vagrancy, I just renewed the campaign again to say, please, if you continue giving, vagrants will be your problem, and you're going to sit with those issues. Metro Police, their job is basically to implement the bylaw. And about a week ago, 21 vagrants were removed from the Randalls Road area. Yeah. Shahistah, thank you for that, Randalls Road area, because we got Metro there out early in the morning, and it's not the first time this was done. So Metro is just not going to come out and do what they have to do. And then again, this is where a councillor comes in to work with the Community Police Forum, discuss these issues, and then take it through, because at a CPF, you have Metro representation there, and you bring it to the fore. And there's a process again that follows through. But let me tell you now, residents, you're listening into the show, the responsibility is yours. Don't give. And don't criticize people who are trying to make a difference for a better community, a better living community, a greener community, one that's free of drugs, one that's free of the homeless, one that's free of petty crimes and everything else. So take ownership. Stop complaining. A few months ago on Sparks Road, the guys were trying to clear up the area with the homeless, with the vagrants. What happened, community? What they did? They called the police for the very same people who they complained to keep the areas clean. Is that right? So again, who cares? Who cares? Good things happen. Bad things happen when good people do nothing. So be part of the change. Be part of a sustainable solution. Why are we not taking... I've been speaking about sustainable solution for years and years and years and years. Nobody's listening. Nobody's grabbing it. And that's where Ratepayers Association comes in. Residents Associations come in to make that difference through people who are in, like in council, in parliament, or wherever it's supposed to be. That's how the change is going to happen. So we got to take ownership. If we don't take ownership, I can't use a bad word, actually. I was going to use a bad word. Nah, sorry. But if we don't take ownership as a community, we have failed. And OVERPORT, Ward 31, 25, all of that is going to get worse. Why is it not happening? Why is there no degradation in places like Umhlanga? Because people are wealthy. They're looking after things. That's why that national dialogue was a waste of time, window dressing nonsense, and Cyril Ramaphosa is living under a rock.
Thanks, Councillor Ismail. We need to wrap up, and I will bring in NOMSA, KAMASHOBANE, CBC in. NOMSA, you've heard our councillors, our civic activists talking. You mentioned at the start and somewhere in the middle that you guys are mobilizing because you all have heard the communities, you all are aware of the failures, both in the security side where vagrants are running amok. And we're talking about preparation briefly for 2026 local government elections. You mentioned that, your forum is mobilizing and you begin to realize there's a need for a change. It's not just going to be a promise like what EFF and MK has done. You're going to have an all-inclusive setup where you're going to deal with the different wards and the communities out there and listen to the reality which you are listening now. What's your plan of action briefly and your closing comments, NOMSA?
Thank you very much. In my closing comments, let me start by asking a question amongst us here. What is a government? A government is a system to govern a state or community. Now we are busy talking about the challenges that we have in our community. That clearly tells us that we do not have a government. There is no government. With MAYIBUYE, with us, we are going to be a government because we are inclusive of all the stakeholders, working with minority pastors, Amakosi, Women's League, traditional healers, students, everybody is under the umbrella of MAYIBUYE and has a word, has a function to execute. We're listening to everyone. In MAYIBUYE, we also have medics. Whenever we go for consultation processes, there are medics there assisting. A huge number of people have been touched by medics, and they have been diagnosed and assisted with a basic healthcare service. I would like to close by saying we need a government. Let us agree that we need a government who will change things around. Because as we are talking about drugs, we have a government. What is the government doing? Because whatever the government doesn't want in this country, it doesn't happen. We mustn't fool ourselves. Whatever the government doesn't want in this country, it doesn't happen. What's the challenge with drugs? The government is happy because they are benefiting. Our kids are staying under the bridges. They drop out from universities. Brilliant, brilliant boys and girls. They are taking drugs. Families are falling apart. These kids are taking everything in their houses, selling them. Parents are suffering. They're dying. The government is, where's the government? We don't have a government. We need the government. Let us come together. Let us come to MAYIBUYE. Let us tackle the situation and change these things around and be a decent community. Because right now, I feel bad for my brother here, Batman. He's a councillor. He's a councillor. He's sitting here with us. He's crying with us. What is he doing? We don't have a government. MAYIBUYE, Africa, MAYIBUYE, under the leadership of Comrade Floyd Shivambu, who is our president, the incoming South African president. Come together, guys. Let's work together and vote for MAYIBUYE and change things around. We know we have data. We have collected data. For the past 6 months, we know what are the challenges our people are facing. That is what we want to fix. Let us come together and work. We are not discriminating. Minority, I even hate the word minority, because I don't see you as minority. You are my sister. You are my brother. We need to work together. These fancy words, they are discriminatory sometimes. They make you feel that, I don't fit in. I'm not one of them. It's us and them. There's nothing like that in Mayibuye. We are one. We are South Africans. I walk on the streets that you walk in. I drink the tap water that you drink. I buy in shops where you buy. So what's the difference? Let us come together. We all agree here, even the councillor agrees that there's no government in South Africa. We need to change. Mayibuye is the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Nomsa. He's not bad man, he's Batman, huh?
Batman.
Abdul, I want to bring you in. We're concluding now, and we're already into 11 minutes past 10, and you got 2 minutes to wrap up on your side. You've been involved in the political circles with the different political parties, and you've indicated through your association with your members of the OVERPORT Ratepayers Association that there's been a need for change at government, and it starts with the ratepayer associations. And we had guests in the studio where they said, if you elect the wrong people or the wrong party, you're going to face the consequences. And as Councillor Ismail mentioned, the buck stops with us. So now is the time. You've got a year left, and we're going to interview a lot of political parties who are going to sell their manifestos and talk about the good of their party. But the ratepayers and the voters need to decide exactly who do we trust, who can make the change, who will make promises and deliver rather than talking and not delivering. So Abdul, your closing comments. You got 2 minutes, brother.
So Yunus, I think it's very important for ratepayers associations and civic society, civic associations to really look at themselves and really lift their hands up and join certain political parties coming for this coming elections to serve their own communities, because they have the interest for the communities. You cannot be sitting on these certain bodies and helping people when you're not sitting on that table. You've got to be sitting in the table. You have to be involved in municipalities to make it different for your community, because we right now, reality, if you look at myself, I'm an activist myself. I'm the chair of the Ratepayers Association. The reason I did that is because, I said I can't see my community on a daily basis suffering the way they are. So we formed the ORA, and one of the reasons we formed, because we said let's help communities, let's help them out, because we came to know that municipalities were failing us, and unfortunately, from that time when we actually put up this organization, we did manage to resolve a lot of issues that was within the community's reach. There's been many wins that OVERPORT Ratepayers has actually had, and we're still currently on the ground with the same issues. I think like last night, Yunus, if you remember the power outages that took place, and ORA was first on the group to be wide awake and make sure we get assistance to get that power restored. If it was not ORA, where would be the your councillor? Your councillors were not involved in there because the councillors were all well asleep.
I was awake.
Oh no, I never noticed you.
I was awake.
No, I never noticed. I never noticed you, guy. Right? I'm just talking about myself. When I received the blackout, we reacted to it immediately. So I think collectively, if we say collectively, it took people like us to actually get some things going to restore the power. And then,
So when we had the power outage, that you were on the phone with me. And
I was on the phone with you.
You confirmed and
exactly.
You said, yes.
Right? Exactly. Right? So we can confirm. And then I messaged you at something to 1 in the morning.
And I see Brother Ajmal did some good work to restore electricity. 100%. So you got some good guys that have emerged into the community to assist.
And this is because of the platform that we've created. That automatically we have some really real people on the ground assisting us.
So the communities need to mobilize and work with each other.
She also does things very silently, and I must also say that she does it all the time on the groups. Whenever she noticed something there, she would also escalate it herself, because we all help each another, not for our benefit. We're here to assist the community.
So now, Abdul, what you're saying is you need to mobilize and start becoming involved in government, either as a councillor or as a MP in future elections, and make changes.
Agreed. 100%. Thank you.
Shahishtah, I want to bring you in. Are you ready to become a councillor in your area now?
Everybody keeps asking me that, hey? we'll have to see more closer to time.
We have to speak to your counselor about it.
Well, listen, what we need to understand is that as NOMSA said, you've got to become part of government to determine policy, to appoint officials, to start delivering. At the moment, there's an indication that it's partially existing because, Hassan said there's a decline from 200, whatever day, 2000 down the line going. So we cannot let it continue. The slide cannot continue. So activists need to get involved in politics and join the right party and get the votes, because South Africa's the population demographics are such that if we talk minorities, and that's not a good word NOMSA says, is that they constitute 20% of the community and 80% is the African community. So you have to work together to make the change. So what are your closing comments that people must start mobilizing from ratepayer associations to get actively involved in politics and get involved in government? What is your suggestion?
So most of the ratepayers we know are just, voluntary. They full-time working people. They're doing it because we didn't have a choice. Things weren't getting done in our area. And I don't think most ratepayers want to join the political, political field. There are a lot of independents that are popping up. You'll see them quite often, and I think they're giving the political parties quite a run for their money, because these are the solo activists that are, the community knows them. They're not interested in joining any political party and going that route. They just want to what's good for their community. So I think those people are going to play quite a role in the votes on which way it's going, and you're seeing that in the different wards in the by-elections thing. So residents as sorts, they only interested in what affects them directly. If you tell them the municipality spent 700 million on the national dialogue, it's over their head. But if they get a water bill that's 300,000, they're going to make a hoo-ha about that. It's affecting them directly. So if you ask people who they're going to vote for and where they're going to vote, they don't really care at this moment. As long as somebody is doing what they're supposed to do, and I think ratepayers have taken over that role quite effectively, these guys are not very interested. I think they've also given up on politicians. All the false promises during election times, we're going to do this, we promise you that, and nothing's being delivered. We know.
That's how we say you pick up your hand.
We know. Hey?
That's how we say you pick up your hand.
So I actually don't know which way the voters are thinking right now. All right, what I would think is that they would need to more focus on who they vote for. What the person's going to stand for, their dedication to that community. And I think that will make a difference.
Shaisa, I just want to sum up what you're indicating is that ratepayer associations need to mobilize to develop leaders. These leaders are allowed to become part of political parties, and they want to go it alone as independent individuals like Batman out here. And then what happens is you align with the ruling party, and the question is, are coalitions truly in the best interest of South Africa's future, or is it time to rally behind one party, united under one purpose, one goal, one vision, and one future? And this is what NOMSA is saying.
Yeah.
That go in there and tell the people we need a change in government, and independents have to align, because
they end up aligning. I think when they council,
no,
they don't have
but
a
coalitions
choice.
is a problem, and we haven't exhausted that subject. We wanted to talk because it's a lengthy debate or discussion we had now, and maybe sometime in the future we're going to chat. Because ultimately, if you don't have a control of a municipality, and if you have a split municipality, and if you have the same old problem councillors and politicians there, they're going to continue with their maladministration and empower themselves, because they will indicate that my colleagues made a lot of money, now is my turn. So obviously you got that challenge. So what is being proposed is have a strong alternative party in government who can make the change. Otherwise, you have what we call a GNU, and the DA is pulling one side and other role players are pulling the other side, and you have this kind of a division. But what is being proposed is basically develop a strong party, because when the ANC came into power, they had the majority, they were a strong party, they had an opportunity to do this country well, but you had these radicals coming in that Hassan is talking about when Zuma came in, etc. And NOMSA spoke about the problems with MK. No sooner they joined, this dictatorial and corruption and various other things cropped up. And these were radicals that left the ANC and formed what we call MK. Will MK be successful? Time will tell us in local government elections. They did well because people had no choice. So we're leaving the listeners with a kind of a question. How do you develop your leaders in the different wards? You got 1 year and 3 months to do that. Start mobilizing with the right parties. We're going to invite other parties here to chat about the manifestos and the constitutions. Later on, maybe close to municipal elections, we'll be having debates, but people have heard the same rhetoric and the stories.
They're so disillusioned. I mean, your canvassing has to be on another level to convince these people on who to vote
Most certainly. Now we're trying to wrap up. Hassan, from a financial perspective, we're losing a lot of money.
Sure.
Our RAN is stable at the moment. The JSE is not doing too bad. That's probably because of the global markets. South Africa needs to catch a wake-up call. Come municipal elections, that's the first of elections that are going to take place within a year. What's your concluding remarks? These political parties that are emerging, they need funding to survive. Ratepayer associations need funding to organize themselves. People are volunteering. So from a financial perspective, what's your advice to all these organizations?
Look, basically, I think all is not lost. So there is definitely still some hope. If you look at where we were a year ago, where we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there has been some improvements in certain areas. So I think the associations in particular within the different municipalities are having an impact. They're having a positive impact, and they must continue doing what they're doing. Very importantly, next year's elections are exceptionally important to everybody. It is a platform where we have to utilize it effectively, getting the right parties and right people in place. Learn from past mistakes. Remember, we've had also independents that haven't delivered in the past. Unfortunately, independents sometimes looked after their own interests, and we've seen it. So we need to carefully understand parties and individuals. There has to be a strong support base for that individual as well, because the nature of politics, unfortunately, it is a dirty game sometimes, and people can get caught up and do what's in their best interests rather than what's in the best interest of the communities. Secondly, from a country perspective, I think we financial markets have been fantastic for us. The rand, the currency has been relatively stable for us. The economy has been tough. People are finding it tough. And it's because of you've had a period of over the last few years, post-COVID and the like, you've had cost of living has gone up quite substantially. You know, if you look at, I mean, whether it's rates and taxes, whether it's your electricity bill, your water bills, and everything's gone up. You know, in the 5 years, they've gone up close to 50-60%. That's a big impact on anybody's income during that period. And income hasn't gone up that much. Income maybe in 5 years has gone up 20-25%, but your expenses have gone up 50%. So disposable income amongst families and households is under pressure. But there is at least we are seeing some signs of improvements across main industries. You're seeing it in the mining sector. You're seeing it in certain of the services sectors. You're seeing it in the financial sector. And I think those are areas which hopefully will continue to support some employment opportunity. Obviously, the tariffs, which is not related, unfortunately not driven by us, but global politics, will impact certain sectors and certain provinces in particular. The Eastern Cape is going to be under a lot of pressure. The agricultural sector and the motor sector is going to be under pressure. But other sectors are doing relatively, and guess what? You are seeing foreigners are buying into this country. For example, in the last month, we've had 2 major deals that's been announced. So you've had a Saudi company, Zaid Group, buying Barloworld. So competition has approved it now. Whether it will go through and approved by shareholders, we'll know in the coming weeks and months. But that's a 23 billion rand, a big Saudi company buying into South Africa, and they would also invest into the country. Secondly, you've had Adcock Ingram, which is owned by Bidvest and shareholders, but now an Indian pharmaceutical company is joining forces with Bidvest, and it will basically buy out the minorities. Again, Indian pharma bringing in their skills into the country and hopefully using the country as a platform to manufacture pharmaceuticals and export it into Africa. We must not underestimate Africa as the big growth area for this country over the next 10, 20, 30 years. We should not only rely on the Western economies and the Western countries as our trading partners. Africa is potentially one of the biggest growth areas over the next 20, 30 years. And we, being one of the most modernized and industrial countries in the continent, should benefit and leverage our position to take advantage of it.
There you are. I think Hassan has given us a good financial summary of what's happened. Just to summarize our discussions today, we spoke about the vagrant issues affecting ratepayers. We did a brief analysis and impact of the national dialogue. We spoke briefly about the pitfalls of coalition governance. And we touched on the preparation for 2026 local government elections. I think our guest this evening put up a wonderful show. There's given us various options we need to consider. We need to understand that this show is to really unpack challenges, to deal with real issues affecting our communities. We are citizens of this country, and we have to ensure that this country is successful. Because when democracy, came into the country, there was a lot of hope, and there has been a gradual slide, in service delivery. But we need to pick up the pieces and, ensure that we make this country successful. I want to thank our guests, Hassan MOTALA, our economist, asset manager, Councillor Muhammad Ismail, Secretary General of Active Citizens Coalition, SHAHISTAH GAFFOOR, community activist, Ward 31 and surrounds, NOMSA, KAMASHOBANE, SIBISI, AFRIKA, MAYIBUYE, KZN convener, ABDOOL VALODIA, Chairman, OVERPORT, Ratepayers Association, Asif Peli for providing an excellent technical service, ensuring that our excellent nasheeds are being played. On a concluding note, we are in the month of Rabiul Awal, which is as the nasheed artist mentioned, it's the month of Noor, it's the month of light. If we look at briefly the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was basically an exceptional leader. He was a humanitarian who governed with honesty, justice, humility, diplomacy. Basically, he ensured that the wealth was appropriately shared with people. He did not stress on amassing wealth for himself. He was there to serve the needs of the people. And this is why, our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has indicated in the Quran that if we want to get success in this world, follow the footsteps of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the light, he was the candle that lit the world, with success. So this is a month in which we have to reflect on the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Obey the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as shown to us by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In every respect, he showed humanity how to conduct oneself. We have to bear the difficulties that a lot of our brothers are facing throughout the world, particularly our brothers and sisters in Palestine, who are facing the wrath of the merciless Zionists, headed by Netanyahu, and the world is criticizing him, and yet he's not blinking an eye. So, and there's complicit, from other countries, and they're doing nothing about the problems that they are facing. So we have to pray for the difficulties and challenges that the people are facing. And President Nelson Mandela, and we quote this all the time, said, South Africa is not free until Palestine is free. So we must keep our brothers and sisters in our prayers and make sure that they eventually gain success. And that's the reality in life, that you go through difficulties like what we are facing in South Africa, and eventually freedom came about. Now we're going through a slide and we have to pick up the pieces and make the effort. Likewise, we have to try to assist in whichever way we can our Palestinian brothers and other brothers that are suffering throughout the world, including in our backyard, our residents living in abject poverty in the informal settlements and in the townships. So we have to pray and make du'as that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mercy on the ummah, guides the ummah towards the righteous path. On that note, that brings us to the end of News in Focus for this evening. It's 22:30, and we trust and hope that those listeners that stayed awake to listen till the end benefited. And inshallah, we will continue our program. Next week, I think there might be a break in the program because there are certain additional programs that are taking place for Rabiul Awal. So if we don't have a program next week, it'll be the week thereafter. And inshallah, until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
नबी की महफिले तो हम सजाएंगे रबीउल नूर का महीना गया रबीउल नूर का महीना गया नबी की महफिले तो हम सजाएंगे ये दुनिया जो कहे नहीं परवाह कोई ये दुनिया जो कहे नहीं परवाह कोई जश्न नबी का हम सदा मनाएंगे रबीउल का महीना गया रबीउल का महीना नबी की महफिले तो हम सजाएंगे है विलादत शहे अंबिया की उस नबी मुस्तफा की जिसके दम से है रौनक जहां की उस हबीबे खुदा की समाये चार सू उन्हीं की गुफ्तगू समाये चार सू उन्हीं की गुफ्तगू उन्हीं के जिक्र से ये दिन मनाएंगे रबीउल का महीना गया रबीउल का महीना गया नबी की महफिले तो हम सजाएंगे दो जहां के लिए मेरे आका अब्रे रहमत बने हैं वो जो आए जहां में तो देखो गलियां
Radio Ansaar, keeping you in the loop.
This hadith is sponsored by Ashraful Aid, International Humanitarian Organization.
حديث أدي قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تجسسوا, do not spy. A Muslim does not spy on other people. Spying is an evil habit. Spying creates hatred because you are interfering in another person's life.
This hadith is sponsored by Ashraful Aid, International Humanitarian Organization.
Are you looking for a meaningful way to fulfill your zakat obligation? Look no further than Ashraful Aid. With our trusted track record, your zakat reaches those who need it the most in the most honorable and dignified manner. Visit our website at www.ashrafulaid.org.
Sunnah a Day, proudly brought to you by Sunpick, 100% pure sunflower cooking oil. Sunpick, cook more with less.
मेरे नबी प्यारे नबी सुन्नत तेरी दुनिया दी
Sunnah a day. Do not eat food while it is very hot. Wait until it becomes warm before consuming.
Sunnah a Day, proudly brought to you by Sunpick, 100% pure sunflower cooking oil. Sunpick, cook more with less.
Imagine this. You're putting together a 7-color meal, from the creamy pasta to the glazed